Awesome. All right. It looks like everyone's connecting to audio. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. This is a part of our next series of Grad Week this year. We're here joined by TeamKC, who's going to I'm going to ask Danielle some questions. I'll let her introduce herself here in a second. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Emily. I work in the Career Center here in the Bloch School, managing our employer relations. So, yeah, appreciate you all being here, and the session is being recorded, so we can share it out afterwards, and we'll share contact information and all of that. If you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat and message Addie. She is a member of TeamKC as well. And then, or if you'd like to raise your hand and come off mute and ask a question, that is totally fine as well. And you can ask questions throughout. Don't have to wait till the end if something comes up. So I think that was all I needed to say. Danielle, I'll turn it over to you first, maybe to do intros, and then you and Addie, and then go from there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us today. Hi, everyone. I am Danielle Hilton. I'm the Managing Director of TeamKC, which is an initiative of the Kansas City Area Development Council. We'll dive into that a little bit more, but also I want to pass it over to Addie Lynn on my team to do a little quick intro as well, as she will be keeping an eye on chat and fielding any questions if you would prefer to chat those versus raising your hand today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Addie Lynn, Manager of Marketing Communications at KCADC. Excited to be here today. Like Danielle said, if you have any questions that you want to throw in the chat, you can just throw them in there or send them directly to me. And then I think just to get the chat kind of kicked off, if everyone could drop in kind of their major, what they're studying, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks so much. So I'm going to kick things off with a question for Danielle. So can you just tell me a little bit about Kansas City Area Development Council and what you do in your role? What does your day-to-day look like?
Absolutely. So the Kansas City Area Development Council, or KCADC for short, is our regional economic development organization. So we are really here, we're essentially the sales and marketing team for the region, and we do a few different things. We attract new companies and talent to the region. So by region, we really mean a larger footprint than just Kansas City specifically. It's actually an 18-county, two-state region that we consider KC. So one KC is something that we say often. We, along with attracting new business and talent, we also enhance awareness of our region's assets and create positive perceptions around those. So, for example, really the new airport is one of the things, that is a huge asset to the KC region, and our team was involved with ensuring that everyone has awareness to it, and we're really leveraging it for the front door that it is to our region, helping us attract new business, attract new talent to the area, and making sure that the people here are able to enjoy it as well. So one other thing that we do is we really promote KC region as a business and lifestyle location of choice. So we do that through a lot of different things. Today, we're going to be diving into the initiative that I lead, which is TeamKC. It focuses specifically on talent and lifestyle. So it's been around for over 17 years, but really our intention is to walk alongside the talent acquisition teams at top employers that are here in the region. So to give you a little background on that as well, I recently joined KCADC to lead the TeamKC initiative. And before joining the team, I was actually on the talent acquisition team at H&R Bloch. And I was leading the employer branding, recruitment marketing. So I had the opportunity to work alongside TeamKC as we worked on different tools and resources to be able to showcase KC as really an asset alongside our own employer branding. So I've been excited to jump on in with the TeamKC initiative and have an opportunity to really shape what we're doing moving forward. We're really thinking strategically about those tools and resources that we create. So it's everything from cost of living comparisons and branded resources to help showcase KC. to really, it depends on what the initiative is, but our goal really is to attract new talent to the region. So relocating, but then also making sure that we're retaining the talent here. So again, walking alongside the talent acquisition teams, TeamKC does not recruit talent directly. We're not opening jobs. We're not posting them. We're just really a brand extension for talent acquisition teams across the region to support them in their efforts.
Great. That's awesome. And then just kind of elaborating a little bit further on what you just shared, but some of the resources your team offers and how our graduate students can get involved in those efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we do on a regular basis is we try and get what we consider our network for TeamKC together on a regular basis. Our network, it's really a cohort of top employers that are here in the region. So we partner with 250 plus top employers here in the KC region. And we have our network. So our people, our talent acquisition and HR professionals from all of those various companies represent about 1,100 professionals. So we try and get that group together on a regular basis to share best practices, challenges, work through different things. Thought leadership is often shared. So we do that through what we call TeamKC roundtables, where they come together, they share information. We actually just had one this morning where the professionals were able to talk about talent retention and the candidate experience, which are two really hot topics right now. And we try and do that on a regular basis. In addition to, we have an annual summit, which is the largest event that we have each year, where outside of what we consider our investor companies, those that have access to our events on a regular basis are able to go to those roundtables. Now our talent summit is available for anyone in the region to attend. So they can grab a ticket and join us. It's an afternoon this year anyways. It's an afternoon of programming where we will share all things that are dedicated to future of work. We'll have an amazing keynote speaker, and we'll also share kind of some national talent trends in addition to localized information. It's a great opportunity for our network to get together, to connect with one another. But aside from those regular connections that we make with our network, we also create tools and resources. A lot of them are based in data. So we have cost of living comparison. So as I mentioned, we're trying to attract new talent to the region. So oftentimes the first thing that people want to know whenever they're evaluating a market is, how much is it going to cost me to live there? So we have a whole library or a suite of those resources that are available, and have a team that is able to create new ones should we not already have that in our library. But we also have amazing diversity, equity, and inclusion resources, what we call community insight guides, that really give talent an opportunity to find their sense of community here in KC. So highlighting tools, resources, connections that are a part of any particular group. So we've got about 12 of them in total, but it's everything from LGBTQI+ in KC to Black in KC and so on. So those are incredible resources that we offer for our investors. But then kind of closing the loop there on how do you get involved, because really we're working alongside TA professionals or talent acquisition professionals. But for this audience specifically, we also have an initiative called KC Heartland, and it's more or less our consumer facing campaign or initiative to showcase everything that we have to offer in KC. So a great way to get a peek on what's happening in KC and how to showcase your KC pride and so on is going to kc.org, and you can sign up to be what we call a KC Heartlander. And again, that gives you insights and information on what's going on here. But then also, if you sign up, it'll give you an opportunity to enter a little bit more information to get some swag to show off that KC pride as well. One last thing that I'll kind of plug is our KC Career Network. So, and I should probably put this in the chat actually, Addie, if you would be able to ask the group, what if you are currently employed versus if you are looking for employment. I would love to know that'll help us kind of tailor the content today as well. But I will also add that if you are currently or find yourself in the future looking for employment here in the KC area, we have a tool called the KC Career Network, which allows you to put your resume in essentially our database that we share with our network of talent acquisition and HR professionals, so that they know they have one stop for anyone who is dedicated or committed to finding employment here in KC. So if you're interested in ever submitting your resume for that, you can go to maybe Addie. I'm not going to get the URL exactly right. So you've got me on chat there as well.
Yeah, so I just dropped the link in the chat if you want to just kind of check it out. But we take like submissions for resumes there at TeamKC at TeamKC.com. So I can drop that email in the chat.
Great.
There's a question in the chat. Is it similar to Handshake?
Is the KC Career Network similar to Handshake?
Yes.
So it is different. It's simply a place for us to be able to share resumes. So it's not interactive. It's essentially like a web page where our network knows that they can go on there and access the resumes. So there won't be interaction. There won't be messages back and forth. We don't post jobs there. It is simply just a tool that's pretty straightforward where we house resumes and host them for as long as needed for those candidates to find their placement. Thanks for that question.
And I just wanted to clarify, it's free to upload your resume to that site.
Awesome. That is absolutely right.
Great. Cool. And I think this matches well with my next question for you, is just how does the KC job market look for graduate business students specifically, in your opinion?
All right. So despite all of the recent news that we've seen about layoffs, and that's really across the nation, we're seeing some downturn in some of the large companies, particularly in the tech space. It's still a talent market. And what I mean by that is there are more jobs available than there are people to fill them when we're looking at those who are looking for employment specifically. So what that means in KC right now is that our unemployment rate currently sits at 2.7%. Now that fluctuates a little bit, but it has been sitting around that mark for some time now. To give you kind of a comparison of what that looks like from a national average, we're at 3.6%. So almost a full point below is where we sit for the Kansas City market. So again, it's a job seeker market right now. Chances are that if you're looking for a job, you are going to be able to find employment and find it quickly. So employers are really getting creative with the way that they're sourcing and finding talent. That includes looking more closely at the talent that they already have in their companies, looking to upskill talent. So chances are, or it's possible, and I haven't seen what the chat looks like exactly just yet, but if you are currently employed by a company, you may be getting your education reimbursed as part of a program. So your employer is upskilling your skills that you already have. So again, taking a look at, it's really critical for companies to be able to find talent wherever they can, and the talent that they already have is key to that. The other thing that we're seeing often is boomerang talent. So we've seen there's been like 5 R's during this, the last couple of years. And first we saw like the Great Resignation, the Great Reshuffle, there are many R's, right? So what we're seeing too is that that when people are leaving their jobs, they're finding that what they had is actually better than what they thought that they were going to. So companies are seeing a lot of what we call boomerang employment or boomerang candidates who left the organization, but then are going back because they are finding that they had a pretty sweet deal, or it might have been a better cultural fit where they were at before. So again, companies are looking at talent however they can, and boomerang candidates are certainly part of that. What we are also saying is that for tech jobs, we're seeing a high demand for tech jobs, particularly in engineering. That remains a high priority as the needs for companies continue to shift to a more digitized space. So we're seeing a lot of those. We're also seeing high demand in data science. We're seeing healthcare administration, lots of manufacturing jobs are coming to the KC market as well. So we've had a few very large, or what we call mega projects come in. So Panasonic is an EV battery plant that's coming to DeSoto, and they're bringing 4,000 jobs to the market. So for that in particular, that comes with the architecture, engineering, and construction, or the AEC space specifically in all of those areas. So engineering, both in the physical sense and in computer engineering, but lots of construction as well. So the jobs are coming. Kansas City has a really healthy job market. We have a lot going for us as well, as far as assets that are really helping employers drive people to relocate here. So while unemployment is low, our companies that we support are looking both at the talent that's here, but they're also looking to relocate talent to fill those jobs as well. One last thing that I will also say is that if you were to look at all of the industries that we have in the KC market, it's nearly a mirror image of what we see in the US overall. So if you were to take the two and compare them, they're nearly identical. And what that really means is that we have a more predictable market than many other markets do.
Great. Thank you so much. And yeah, just want to reiterate, if y'all have any questions for Danielle or Addie, please send them our way. I have a few more for you though, Danielle. So thinking about, like, as our graduate students are interacting with some top employers in Kansas City, what are some of like the trends that are top of mind for them, or maybe skills even that they're looking for from specifically graduate students?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're seeing a lot of different topics that continue to be top of mind for our employers. They continue to wonder, how do they connect with Gen Z? So that continues to be a hot topic. You know, do you connect with Gen Z on social media, or do you send emails? How do they want to be communicated to? So that continues to be something that we hear often from top employers that are here, is how do they reach the current largest population that's coming into the market. So if you have any insights, if you want to put that in chat, any recommendations for employers on how should they get their career content out to students that are coming out of either graduate programs or four-year degrees, we're all ears. We don't quite have all the answers, and it's just because that's part of being, you know, a people, you know, whenever you're communicating with people, that's one of the factors, is that we can try everything. But any advice is welcome on that front. But we also continue to see a lot of other topics come up regularly. So work environments, it is interesting that work environments, you know, we've gone through several different phases during the pandemic. And now that we're in kind of this endemic where, you know, we're living with COVID being a part of just day to day at this point, then companies are really reevaluating where does the work need to be done and how do they best function? So lots of companies went hybrid during the pandemic, and a lot of companies are keeping that model and saying that works for us. We want our employees to have the flexibility to work wherever they need to, wherever they're most effective, while other companies are saying it's based, our culture is better when our people are together. So they are bringing people back into their office spaces. The other side of that too is that a lot of these large companies have very large buildings, and it's really important that they utilize this space that they have made the commitment to. So work environment and how do you communicate with your employees about where they need to be working and when continues to be something that we check in on, and we ask companies how they're feeling, how their employees are feeling, and overall people want flexibility, but people also want to be around people. So that's, I think, a good thing that we're seeing a shift to more flexibility, but also more in-person opportunities to connect with one another. One of the things you had mentioned, skills, is that one of the things that we're hearing is that there's a little bit of an interpersonal skills that have been missing from talent, from people in general, as we haven't been together very much in the last several years. So companies are really taking a closer look at that. They're making sure that they're hiring for soft skills, they're hiring for a cultural fit. We're finding that especially in such a tight labor market where there are fewer people than there are jobs, a lot of companies are sharing that we're hiring for the person and we can train them, or we can send them through a program for a lot of the other things. So that's something that we're hearing. So upskilling again comes up. We're hearing about the boomerang candidates who are previously from, they were at the company before and now they're coming back. Companies are learning a lot from those candidates about, what's their experience like? How do they improve it? So that candidate experience really is kind of that overall umbrella. The candidate experience, or the talent experience, is the overall umbrella to a lot of the themes that we're seeing when it comes to everything, but it's because it's all about talent.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Great insight. And I know Addie posted a question about if we think career content on social is appealing. I want to encourage everyone to either respond in the chat or come off mute. Personally, I think especially internships, yes, definitely social media is 100%. I think it just depends maybe on the job a little bit and just how you communicate those expectations, what it is. But that is where that generation is. So if you want that talent, that's where you got to be. Awesome. Next question for you is just what advice you have for graduate students as they maybe take the next step in their career or want to start their own business and be a true entrepreneur. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so I think that the first step is really part of what you're doing here is making sure that you're getting plugged in with all the tools and resources that TeamKC provides. So getting connected with employers, with companies as they provide information. It's really all about connection. So you have to think of, and actually I was having a conversation with Addie earlier this week. We actually have a marketing internship that we have a job posting for, and we don't hire that often. We have a small but mighty team, and she shared with me that she completely understands what she is hearing from talent acquisition and HR professionals that we're supporting, is that they get a lot of applications and they have a very short amount of time to sort through all of the applications or the resumes. So while it is definitely a talent market, it also is very important for you to be building connections. So especially if you've got an eye on a company that you really want to get in with, I highly recommend that you make a connection at that company. So whether it be at a career fair or engaging through content that's online, perhaps social media, if they're there, making a personal connection goes a really long way to getting your foot in the door, to standing out from all of the different applications that are coming through. The other thing that I will say is you can keep an eye out for updates and announcements from KC particularly because when we do announce projects, or those companies that are committed to growing their presence here in the KC region, that also means that jobs are coming. So I mentioned Panasonic already, 4,000 jobs coming to the greater KC area, but then we also announced, Chick-fil-A is going to have a facility here sooner than later. And then we also had another project announcement this morning. So more jobs are coming to KC if you are looking for what new jobs are coming. That's a great way. So follow us and get information on that front.
Great. That's awesome advice. And then so I think definitely want to open it up to Q&A, but one last question I had for you is just some exciting things that are coming to Kansas City. I know the draft is happening very soon. If that's your team or your area, but yeah, just touch on that would be awesome.
Yeah, so that's what's fun. Thank you so much for the question. And that's what's fun is that because of our purpose is partly to just promote all of the great things that are happening in KC, we have a really good pulse on what's going on. And there's so much that is going on here in the KC region. Kind of backstory, but before I dive into like the really fun, what's coming to KC is that it's, for me anyways, it's very interesting that when KC was founded back in the 70s, it was founded by two of the leaders of companies that are here in KC. It was actually Henry Bloch and Don Hall. So H&R Bloch and Hallmark got together and they said, there's so much going on in KC. We've got to share this. We've got to, it was basically like a PR campaign. And they said between Crown Center and Arrowhead and Kaufman and it was a new KC at the time, or KCI, the airport at the time, all of those things were happening at one time. And circling all the way back around, this like renaissance, it's happening again. All of these amazing things are coming to KC, and it's an exciting time for us to be able to promote everything that's going on. So I joined at a great time. I will say it makes my job a little bit easier to be able to showcase all of the amazing things. But Emily, you're spot on. We've got the NFL draft that's coming here to KC. Our offices it's at Union Station. So they're starting the build out of the stage come next week. So if you can imagine, the stage is going to be as wide as the front of Union Station. It's going to be 3 stories high, equipped with an elevator and everything. So it is a big deal. KC is really on a big stage, truly. So the NFL draft is a big thing. That's happening April 27th through the 29th. And just fun fact too, all of the fan zone is going, I keep pointing this way. It's probably not even that way. I think it's that way, but all of the fan zone is happening in front of Union Station as well. It's free for anyone to be able to attend. So if you have any desire to check it out, great opportunity to see something that is the first here for KC specifically. But we have other things. Obviously, I've mentioned the new terminal. So KCI opening just last month at this point, but that's huge for us. It's a brand new front door for businesses and talent as they are seeing Kansas City perhaps for the first time, but then it's also great for everyone who lives here as well. So other things, we've got this streetcar extension, which being at TeamKC, you're going to be impacted positively by that as well. But there's awesome things like the Rock Island Bridge project, which is going to provide a really cool entertainment area, if you will. That's coming, I believe, March of next year. And then a huge one, we've got 2 other things also happening next year is the KC Current. So the first stadium dedicated to women's soccer here in the US is coming to Kansas City. So that happens next year as well. And then another huge one is we're a host city for the World Cup in 2026. So all amazing things happening. And I'm sure that I could have rattled off 100 more, but those are kind of what I view as like our big ticket items. And Addie leads our KC Heartland initiative, that campaign that I mentioned earlier. So she does a really great job of making sure that she's sharing updates on different things. So I would recommend, if you want to know the latest and greatest and what's happening in KC, sign up to be what we call a KC Heartlander to receive those updates. I mentioned it earlier, but again, it's kc.org if you want to sign up to be in the know on a regular basis.
Yeah, and just a heads up, I dropped that link in the chat a little bit earlier, so you can just go straight there. And kind of what you're signing up for when you do that is basically a monthly-ish newsletter where we're sending out just like kind of like quick hits of the top things going on, you know, whether it's a new restaurant opening or a new airport opening. It could be a variety of different things. Just keeping a pulse on what's going on in Kansas City. Also, you can opt in to get some fun stickers for free in the mail. If you sign up, you'll get like an email a week later requesting your address information. It's totally optional, but you can get some KC Heart swag, if you will, in the mail. So definitely recommend signing up for that. And then we are on social kind of across the board with KC Heartland. So just a really good follow if you're wanting to just keep a pulse on what's going on.
Great. Do we have any questions at the moment? I want to just encourage our students who are here to ask. Please take advantage of Addie and Danielle. They are a great resource.
So we continue. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Chris. Yeah.
So we continue to see the market being strong. Do we continue, or I don't know if you guys have data on this, but do we continue to see salaries on the up because the job market is so hot for job seekers?
That's a really good question, and one that I'm glad that you asked. Actually, we rely on the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. They do a monthly report, and the last report that we saw from them saw cooling wage growth. So as far as continued salary increases, based on the last report, we did see them cooling. Now, this market has been one that is keeping everyone on their toes. So I know that we'll have a new labor report soon. So we'll see what that one looks like. But overall, salary growth slightly down. But we'll see what the next report says. It's still up from previous years, and we're back to kind of pre-pandemic levels for things.
Thanks.
Thanks for the question.
So I had a question sent to me a little bit similar to that, and just kind of asking about salaries, but more so how can you be an advocate for yourself when you are entering the workforce when it comes to things like salary and benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. So even though wage growth is cooling, we are also seeing, as I've mentioned, that candidates are in high demand. So companies are doing what they can to make sure that their job is appealing. So with that said, knowing that we're also an extension of talent acquisition teams, it's important for them to be able to showcase what they have to offer. And it's really important for candidates to be able to advocate for themselves. So I would say that, of course, salary is important to everyone. I would also recommend, though, looking at your total reward. So those are the benefits that companies bundle, if you will. So what all is available? So don't just think about your bottom line for your salary. What are you making on a regular basis? But does the company have, bonuses tied to performance, the individual performance or the company's performance? Do they have great healthcare? Other total rewards related to healthcare is everything from their gosh, there's everything from obviously the dental, the vision, those are kind of like the table stakes, things that most companies, most large employers are going to have. But there's also things that are related to infertility benefits, adoption benefits, those kind of family related benefits. And there's also everything from health and wellness. So are there employee programs that support with your overall wellness? Companies are really looking at employees as the whole person. So ask about those type of benefits in addition to what is the salary, because there is a lot of value that comes with the benefits itself. But do know that you're in a position because of the tight labor market that you have some cards that you can play. You can ask about those things, but most importantly of all is that make sure that you're taking a role at a company that you align with. So find the cultural fit, make sure that you're not just taking the job to take the job and knowing that you're going to have to look for employment for a company that's a better fit. Really go into the interview having done your homework, having, looked at Google, or sorry, looked at, well, yes, of course, Google them, but also look at Indeed and Glassdoor. What are the reviews? Did their values align with yours? And if there's any red flags, ask those questions in the interview process, because it is a great opportunity right now is a good time to be a candidate in that seat. So make sure that you have awareness to all of that and feel empowered to ask the questions of the employers, because you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. I don't know if that answered your question, Addie.
That sounded great.
I think it did, for what it's worth. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Any
More
other questions?
Yeah.
Your interpositions are listed in your website, or do we have these positions in the Handshake website?
Yeah. So
You cut out just a little bit, but positions.
Yes, interpositions in your organization are listed in your website or in Handshake.
So I think Omar's asking about the internship position, Addie, you have currently open, the social media.
Oh, so it actually just closed. I am so sorry to report. Yeah, it was on LinkedIn, but definitely reach out to us and add us on LinkedIn, whatever, for future opportunities.
Yeah, and I'll put a plug in there for some of our partners, our top employers that are here in KC. There are many internship programs that are available, and what we're hearing a lot of is that internships for the summer are really gearing back up this year. So they took a little bit of a hit during the pandemic, but oftentimes they're back on track now. They may have had a program last year. Some are holding steady to what they had before, but others, again, I'll just do kind of a little shout out to Burns and McDonald. They, I think, had 400 interns last year, and they're looking to fill 800 internships this year. So if you're looking for a role or for an internship, Burns and McDonald is definitely a good one. T-Mobile has a large program. H&R Bloch has a fantastic program as well. And we list some of those top employers on kc.org as well. So if you want to see what are the largest employers that are here in KC, go to kc.org, and I think it's /work, and you can view some of those. And chances are, if they are a large employer, they're going to have an internship.
And I want to plug too, I believe Burns and McDonnell, they also hire business students. So don't shy away just because they're in that AEC industry or because they're predominantly engineering. They have lots of opportunities for undergraduates and graduate students. So.
Absolutely. Another great thing to mention, because it's very easy to bucket a company based on the industry that they're in. But if you think of them as a whole business, you would know that they've got positions probably in most spaces, with exception to Burns and Mac probably isn't going to have anyone from the healthcare space or anything like that, but business roles specifically, you can't just think about the industry that the company is traditionally in. My example of working at H&R Bloch is a prime example of that. As soon as I share with people that I worked at Bloch, they say, "Oh, well, you do taxes." Like, no, I actually just did my taxes myself for the first time this year, and I'm very proud of myself. But my expertise is really in talent acquisition and marketing. So that may not be the first thing that you think of whenever you think of H&R Bloch, but just know that there are those different functions between marketing and talent acquisition, HR. You've got finance and accounting, of course, for that example specifically, but the same thing is true for those architecture, engineering, and construction companies as well.
Absolutely.
I'm going to drop in the chat a link to check out that's on the KC80C website. And it's actually what we call our major employer database. So you can look through that to get ideas of industries and companies here within the market.
Do you have any other questions? I think I thought of one, Danielle, because you were mentioning how to go to your website and social media to like look and see what companies are either investing in Kansas City in one way or another. And if that's a company a student wants to work for, particularly a graduate student, how would you recommend they reach out to them? Would it just be like on LinkedIn? Like, are you all able to help facilitate that? What's your advice in that realm?
Yeah, so it just depends on the company, but Panasonic specifically, going back to that example, they set up a portal specifically for careers in KC. So that would be the best way to reach out to them to express interest. And I know that they've got a team that's dedicated to making sure that those roles are filled. But I also just saw in chat that, LinkedIn is a great way to make connections. And so it's good to hear that you want to be communicated with there, but likewise, chances are that you'll be able to find the talent acquisition professional at any of those large companies, find them on LinkedIn, shoot them a direct message. Oftentimes, if a job is posted on LinkedIn, I can't say oftentimes, sometimes if a job is posted on LinkedIn, the hiring manager is potentially tied to the job. So you can see that there's like a little image and it says their name. Feel free to reach out to them. If they have it listed there, it's because they are willing to share that information. It's not mandatory for LinkedIn to have a hiring manager or a talent acquisition professional tied to an individual job. So if it's there, it's fair game. They're basically inviting you to reach out to them. So if you find the job on LinkedIn, make the connection, do a little bit of the work. Again, it goes a really long way in setting yourself apart from other candidates.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say too, you guys probably already know this, but just be mindful of your alumni higher ed connections. When you look at a company on LinkedIn, you can see you'll be able to see UMKC alumni that are working there. So that's another direction you can always go. I find that I'm a K-Stater, but I've found that, K-Staters help other K-Staters. So I'm sure it's similar with UMKC alums. So that's always another route that you can go, is reaching out to somebody who went to your alma mater.
Yeah. Great advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess I have another question.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any tips for networking for those of us who are secure in our careers and maybe internships are not a realistic option for us because we're working full-time, have families, older students?
Yeah, so tell me more. Are you looking for recommendations for how do you make the connection, or how do you tell me more about what you
events, organizations? You nailed it earlier when you were talking about the Great Resignation. Took part in it, upskilling. I'm getting my MBA. And I'm not necessarily looking for a new opportunity, but I think it's important that we position ourselves to take advantage of those opportunities if they do so arise.
Yes.
Networking events, organizations, I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking on.
Yeah, so like, how do you find the events? More along the lines of that. So look to UMKC. I would say if there are any kind of alumni events, if there are any, even if you're not looking for, your next career at that time, attending a career fair, attending any career related events, there's no harm in that. Even, you can share very candidly, what your purpose is for networking. And that's the best way to really go about networking anyways. You want to be able to share, what are you looking for, so that you can get to your goal faster. So anything through UMKC, there are different events that are hosted from organizations that are here in KC. I think about like the Chamber does. Addie, actually, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Do you have any recommendations from the Chamber or anything that might be a quick fix for networking?
Yeah, so Gen KC, I'm gonna shout out, is a group for early career professionals within Kansas City. So it is their job to put on events specifically for the purpose of networking and getting to know other young pros in the region. So Gen KC is great for that. They do all kinds of like different series of events. So the one that's coming top of mind right now is called Grow to CEO. And that's where they're pulling, top level leadership from companies to do like panels. And so there's an opportunity to network with fellow early career professionals, but also maybe a chance to meet some of that high level leadership at companies around town. There's also kind of more, personal type networking events that they do, not personal, but just a little less business oriented. So there's like community involvement opportunities, and then some events that they put on just for fun. So for example, they just did a big trivia event that they do every year. It's just another good way to meet other professionals and kind of get a little bit of exposure to the different opportunities and things in town. But yeah, I would just reiterate that really looking at specifically if is a particular industry you're interested in, or if there is, kind of a business track professional group to check those out. So for example, like in me for marketing specifically, I look to groups like the Public Relations Society of America or the Social Media Club. So they're like, I can, maybe not tell you right off the bat, but I can almost guarantee that there's a professional organization in town that would be of interest to you.
Yeah.
Another great way to make connections too is looking at joining a board or being a part of an advisory board. So a great way to make connections. Board engagement looks very different depending on the organization and how they function. But it ranges from a large time commitment to very minimal. So if you look at board engagement, it really spans across the gamut there, but really, again, a great way to be able to make connections. And even if you're not looking for your career move right at that moment, some of my strongest connections have come through some of my boards that I've served on. In fact, I sat on the TeamKC board of advisors before joining to lead TeamKC. I'll also mention that April shared in chat. So Bloch Graduate Student Spring Social.
Yeah.
Sounds like an amazing event. That's this Thursday from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. So details are in the chat there. Thank you so much, April, for putting that in for the group. That sounds like an amazing opportunity to network.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll just add that's specifically just for our graduate students, so you all can get to know each other a little bit better. We'll do a quick little networking workshop for any of you who may feel like your networking skills are a little rusty, or just want a refresher or anything like that, and then you can put them right to practice. So it'll be super casual though, nothing, and you can come even anytime between 5:30 and 7. Everyone is welcome. So There'll be food and drinks, so if you needed an incentive.
Sometimes we do.
Yes, I understand. That's dinner time, you need something, so.
I received another question directly through chat here, and this person is asking, they're just beginning their MBA and they're wondering if I would recommend applying for the job while they're still in progress, or should they wait until they're closer to the completion of their degree. So depending on what track you're on, as far as how long it will take you to complete that program, then I would likely recommend holding off a little bit longer till you are closer, because if a job is actively posted, that means that the hiring team is looking to fill that job pretty immediately. So you've got a seat
Danielle,
to fill.
I'll stop you quick because our program is designed and this is not something that we communicated to you very well, but it's for working adults. So you can do this program while also completing your degree. So our program's in the evening. So if you're an MBA student and you want to get that job to start having that tangible expertise that you can take into the office each day, it's actually works out pretty well. There are full-time MBAs, as you were talking about, Danielle, that maybe you wait, put it off, but for our program, it fits really well into the working person's lifestyle. And Chris and Megan and some of you folks could share ideas on that too, if you want, but.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that information. So yeah, if you're able to do the job while you are still in the program, then apply for it. Worst case scenario is that they say you need to have the program completed before you can start this job. And then if the role is still available, if it's a recurring role that they fill often, then you come back and you apply whenever you're done with your program. But that's a great call. Thank you for sharing that information. And thank you for the question as well.
I've been in the workforce for 15 plus years after doing a different degree. And right now there's more power in the employee's hands than there's ever been. I was not technically qualified for the role that I took when I did my great resignation move. And now I'm getting my MBA with my company's support. So I'm a big believer in apply, because they're hiring the person right now, very much to your point. So it's wonderful to be an employee right now compared to how it was, 10, 15 years ago. So from my personal experience, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, that's a great ad. Thank you so much for that. And congratulations on making what sounds like a fantastic move in your career.
Any other questions? I haven't received any in the chat, so.
Danielle, I have a question for you. Earlier you were mentioning, making sure that your values kind of align with your potential employer and looking out for potential red flags. And I know those can kind of be dependent upon the person, what your red flags might be, but off the top of your head, do you have any examples of red flags that people should look out for?
Gosh, you're really putting me on the spot there. It definitely depends on the person, right? I was just talking to a candidate the other day who they expressed interest in a company and they really had their eye on that particular company. And I said, well, if you're not able to close the gap and land a job there, maybe there are other companies that might be of interest to you. I said, what are you looking for most in a company, and what kind of cultural fit would be best? And he said, I just want to make money. He was like, I can work anywhere. I just want to make a lot of money. So for him, it sounds like the red flags would not be anything alarming to him, but there might be many for other people. But I would strongly recommend going to the company's career site, looking, like I mentioned, look at reviews. Red flags are going to show up. So people write reviews only if they are so happy they have to tell the world, or if they're so unhappy they have to tell the world. So you're going to see any of those negative reviews come through, any of the things that they don't like. Maybe it's bad management, or maybe, you know, they don't follow through on their promises. Like those are huge red flags that would be for me. But again, for my friend who just wants to get paid, then maybe who wouldn't care so much because he's got the paycheck. So just a couple examples of what red flags might be. But again, like you mentioned, like it really just depends on the person and what their tolerance level is for different things.
Yeah. I know yesterday we did the salary renegotiation workshop. Tess led that. Thank you, Tess. But one of the things she mentioned about might be a red flag is, you know, if you are trying to negotiate and you want the opportunity just to share like why you think you deserve more, and maybe they're not open to listening to you or going to renege the offer, you know, that might be a red flag, and maybe you're kind of dodging a bullet there. So that was something that I hadn't really considered. But I mean, most companies I don't think will do that, but it's important, you know, maybe to add that to your red flag list, and make sure you also have a green flag list too, like things that you are looking for, and if a company checks those boxes. So
absolutely. And two, because those are kind of in reviews, you're going to see one extreme or the other. Take everything with a grain of salt.
Right.
Go to the team that's doing the hiring, ask if this is reflective of what their experience is. If it is a good, you know, talent acquisition person, they're going to give you the honest feedback, because you're going to know once
Right.
you land the job anyways. So they don't want to have to backfill your role once you leave because you determine that it's not a good fit. So talk to the talent acquisition leaders. They'll be able to tell you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we just have a few minutes left, so maybe time for like one more quick question if anyone has any. If not, that's okay too. Always love getting a few minutes back in my day. So
yeah, absolutely. And then I'll also just share my information. If anyone is interested, or if a question comes to you, feel free to reach out to me directly. I will drop it in chat, but my email is hilton@ThinkKC.com, and I will happily connect with you. You can also add me on LinkedIn. I'll connect with you there, but happy to answer questions as they pop up as well.
yeah. Awesome. All right, there's Danielle's email.
There it is. And I see lots of chats coming through. So thank you all for your time today. It's been fun getting to connect with you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much.